new member joined my toxic-free relationship club yesterday and shared that she was 2 weeks out of leaving a narcissistic abusive relationship. And as she was describing what it was like to be so close, to be newly single, and still in that phase of wondering what in the world happened to you, it reminded me of that period. I find that I forget what it was like. Just listening to her conversation was incredibly painful. It brought me right back. It brought me right back to how bad it was, and which was why I think a lot of us, once we get out of the throes of a toxic relationship and we start to heal, we don't remember that phase. I would say it was probably one of the most horrific times of my life trying to recover from a trauma bond. And you know what? Not only did I started this without my right glasses. I'm going to have a hard time seeing what you guys are writing, but we're going to make do. Okay. So I'm trying to, recall the pain of it. And one of the things that's hard for me, because in the throes of all of that, my son was very, very ill with leukemia, and we didn't know if he would survive. So I had the potential of losing another immediate close family member, another immediate family member to cancer. And I was suddenly thrown into singlehood when my ex walked out. He got up, he packed, because we were visiting my son who was sick in the hospital. He packed and he went home. And he said he couldn't be there. I couldn't leave. My kid was sick. I'm not going to walk out on a sick son. I mean, who does that? That's not the kind of person I wanted to be. But I remember just feeling, I was beyond feelings. I think I dissociated a lot in that period of time. I think I went on autopilot. I got up, got dressed, went to the hospital, spent the day, came home, got around for the night, went to bed, got up and did it again. And I did it again and did it again. I had no place to live. I was sleeping on an air mattress on the floor. I had no furniture. I was running out of money, no job. And I'm back into a country where I don't even have a car. And I'm left. I'm just left in this horrific state. How many of us am I describing? I think that this is a common problem. I think when you get into a narcissistic abusive relationship, we wrap ourselves around the narcissist. They become our their full-time attention. We combine finances, or we give them access to finances, or we depend on them because they suggest that we stay home. They do something that makes us financially dependent on them. And then we limit our social circles because either we've moved somewhere new, or they don't like our friends. They start to alienate us with family, talking about how difficult family is. They do all sorts of really strategic, manipulative things to isolate us. And so before we know, and then they're dangerous. On top of it, we're having to manage toxicity. For me, he was cheating all the time. I caught him 2 months into the relationship cheating, and I proceeded to catch him continuing to text people. I suspected that more was going on, but I couldn't prove it. But it was all sorts of I didn't feel safe having him not around me, and we're running a business together. So we were together all the time. So you have all of this going on. And it's easy for those on the outside. I know I'm going to stop for a second and take the complaint of just leave. What people don't realize is that you've been cut off. You're often very isolated. You have now limited access to the resources that allow us to have autonomy. So, and for me, as I've told you before, where do I go? I don't have a home in the United States. I don't have a car in the United States. Where do I go? I can't manage the country that I'm in very well because I don't have a command of the language, and I'm running a business without command of the language. And how do you do that? So often that's the situation many of us are in. We have children with this person, or we're running a business together with this individual. Maybe, like I said, they've made us financially independent. We've lost our jobs, so we don't have now a way to mean any financial independent support. So we're highly dependent on this individual. It's not just so simple to get up and leave. And here's the other piece. And I there's a new book that just came out. It literally was released yesterday by Shelley Pumphrey. There's no S, I shouldn't have said that. Shelley Pumphrey, called Hindsight is 2020. Shelley Pumphrey. And the rest of it is it's not hindsight, it's insight. Insight is 2020. She takes a cute little saying, hindsight 2020. Insight is 2020. And then the subtitle is How to Trust Yourself to Protect Yourself from Narcissistic Abuse and Toxic Relationships. Forward by Sandra Brown. She wrote it forward, and then it's reviewed by Dr. Kristen Milstead, who I just interviewed in a live webinar called Why Can't I Just Leave? Beautiful book. This is a fabulous book. I would really recommend it to anyone who's fresh out of a relationship, who's trying to figure out what just happened. What red flags might have you missed? What red flags are they really good at hiding? What kind of interior work do you need to do to sort of get healthier? And how to begin to process what happened, make peace with it, and move on. So it's all about getting insight after these relationships. Like I said, it's super, in fact, you can tell, I'm halfway through already. I got it last night, started reading it last night, halfway through, and I'm marking sections where I really, really love what she has to say. It's just super powerful. She takes on the complaint that's saying that we're codependent. We're not. That's a myth. Codependency has to do with addiction. She says that. Codependency has to do with addiction, not with narcissistic abuse. But she writes in this one section, the book is divided into 3 sections. The first part is external red flags. The second part, external and internal. And then the strategies to strengthen your ability to identify and act on these flags. So that's what she's going to cover in this book. External red flags, internal red flags, and the strategies to strengthen your ability to identify and act on the red flags. It's like I said, it's just hot off the presses yesterday. I pre-ordered it, which is how I know, and it's a really wonderful book. So another great book to add to our library of excellent books. But again, it got me thinking about the red flags and the trauma bond and why I stayed and the cognitive dissonance I had and how hard it was to let go. How hard it was to let go, how hard it was to accept that there was going to be no pretty way out. This is what I often get asked when people contact me for help. They often want to know what strategy have they not considered that they can get out that really would be much easier. Maybe is the right way. Maybe is something they're not seeing. There is no pretty way to get out. This person has made sure that the way that they're involved in your life, it's going to be destructive to leave them. They're making sure that your life will be devastated in some way. And there's no way around that. I wish there was. There's no way around it, except that this is the big thing that I took away from it, that I really would love to see all of us take away from it, is that you have been changed. And often right in the midst of the trauma bond, you think you've been incredibly weakened and maybe even destroyed. And if I'm really brutally honest for a second, super vulnerable with you, it got so bad in the middle of the relationship, I didn't care if I lived. I really didn't care. I wasn't taking any active steps to hurt myself, but the drive to live, the motivation, the interest no longer was there. That I felt it was such a dark place. I felt so hopeless and helpless that I had come literally to the end of myself. And I felt destroyed. That felt like I was devastated. And I know many of you who share your story with me describe a similar place. But here's the thing, you're not. And even Dr. Milstead in the webinar, Why Can't I Just Leave, said this same thing. And if you guys want to replay, it's an amazing webinar. You can get the replay through the link in my bio. This is what she said. Your real self has grown very, very quiet and has become nearly like a whisper. It's become a whisper. But you're still there. Yes, you've learned how to cope. You've learned how to adjust into this, who this person needs you to be in order to keep the peace, which even that doesn't work. Let's be honest. You can't keep the peace with somebody who has a personality disorder, but your real self is still there and still alive. Now the work begins, even after the devastation. And like I said, I walked out with no car. I left both cars back there. I had no place to stay. I was sleeping on a mattress on a air mattress on the floor of my son's apartment, and he was laying dying in the hospital. That's how my relationship ended. That's what it looked like. I bought furniture off of Facebook Marketplace. It's like how I got a studio in the same building so that I could drive him and chauffeur him. I used his car for several weeks until I could get a car. I mean, literally, I walked out to nothing. But that weak self, that weak has suddenly begun to bloom, and partly out of rage. I'll tell you, at first I was furious. I mean, furious. I wanted to, I wanted to sort of like do the ultimate fuck you to him, showing him that I can survive. So partly what got me out of bed was rage. But every day I grew stronger, and I began to discover myself. I began to reclaim my life, reclaim the habits of my life that I had lost. I hadn't even had, at near the end of the relationship, control of the television. I wasn't even getting to relax the way I wanted to. I would literally run work all day long, and then over the things that he wasn't doing that he should be doing. Then he would come home, take over and watch YouTube, while I then worked all evening long, collapsed into bed, fell asleep to the light of the television because he wouldn't have the courtesy even to go into the other room or turn it off. And then I would get up, he'd set the alarm too early, and we'd start all over. I had lost complete control over my life when I was in that relationship, complete control. And so I began to reclaim this. Began to reclaim this slowly by listening to the small voice of myself that, honestly for me, because some of you guys know that I came out of a toxic home originally. So I am an example of, yes, I came from a dysfunctional family, and then I got in my first marriage. It wasn't perfect. Had its weak places, but it was decent. And then I ended up in this relationship. So yeah, I do fit the profile that they talk about as the myth that I had learned to survive toxicity. I mean, I'm starting to share with you all that I grew up around psychopaths. So you don't take psychopaths on, you learn to play the game very, very well, because they'll get you if you take them on. Well, so do narcissists, but for different reasons. But anyway, yeah, I began for the first time in my life, as that relationship ended, began to really begin to discover myself. So let's talk about trauma bonds. I'm going to now turn the floor over to you. I'm actually going to step away from a second so I can find the right glasses, because I can't read your comments. So I'm no good to you right now because I can't read them. So I'm going to disappear for a minute, and I'll be right back. But I want to talk about trauma bonds, and I'll introduce myself, and we'll talk about the rules of the room. But be patient for just a second. So and wouldn't you know, they were hiding behind. I have a new computer set up with a new screen and better so I can see things, and I have all the surface, and it was hiding behind the computer. So I found it. Okay, so I'm back. So let's talk about trauma bonds. And now I can see what you're saying. First of all, I had a fantastic subscribers live on Saturday. I'm going to do this once a month, but I'm going to offer subscribers something new, a new perk to anyone who subscribes to my lives. Subscribers, I'm going to follow all of you so you can message me. And message, and this is what I want you to message me with. Message me a question, and then when I go live the next time, I will take your question and answer it live. So, like, for example, if you message me today or tomorrow, I go live on Thursday, I will take at least one question and to answer this for you. So if you're a subscriber live on TikTok, that's a new benefit I'm going to be offering. In addition to once a month, we have a subscriber live. I haven't posted October's subscriber live, but I will soon. It's just too far out, so we will do that soon. But so if you are interested in coming to the top and getting your issues addressed, that's a great way to do it. So, all right. Let me introduce myself and talk about how I know you're talking to me. And I'm both here live with Instagram as well as TikTok. And how do you subscribe? It should be up at the top where it says, somewhere it says subscribe. So Brittany, do you know where the subscribe is? I know Brittany's here. Brittany's my moderator. I love Brittany a lot. So anyway, let me introduce myself and then I'll talk about the rules of the room and then we'll start taking questions. I'm Dr. Kerry McAvoy. I am a mental health specialist with over 20 years of counseling. I used to have a private practice, worked for 20 years seeing patients around all sorts of issues, including personality disorders. I'm actually a psychologist, and this is a place where we talk about mental health issues, particularly about narcissistic abuse, but I can talk about anything related to mental health if you would like to. Rules of the room. We don't talk about politics, religion, and we don't talk about my looks, although thanks. I've been wearing, for those of you who read my book, Love You More, the Harrowing Tale of Lies, Sex Addiction, Double Cross, you know I have severe alopecia, so I wear wigs. And so this is a nicer one. I mean, it's closer to my actual color. It's been fun wearing the lighter color one, but I'm probably will wear this for a little bit. And I've been playing around with going different looks. So you may see me get a few new wigs with go short hair again. So I've just been having fun with it. But so thank you for those of you who've commented about it. That's the deal. Yes, some people pick up that I'm wearing a wig. Some wigs don't have as good of a hairline as others. And so it's a little more noticeable, but I try not to care. You know what I'm saying? At my age these days, I just try not to live. I live worried about what people think about me. That's the freedom of turning 60, guys. You start to stop caring about what people think about you. You know what? You realize that it just gets downhill from here. So I'm going to make sure that I really, make the most of it. Okay, so how do you ask me a question? Because TikTok, which I don't know why, took away the interact button, which it's there, but if you look at it, it's polling, like, what's my favorite dish? That's not what we want to talk about. So what you do is put a thumbs up in front of your question, and then I know you're talking to me, and then I can take your questions. I am 60. Can you believe it? I'm one of these weird people. You know that story about the guy who just ages and looks younger as he gets older? I'm one of these people who's looked better as I gotten older. So if you go back and see what I used to look like, I don't know. Hey, I guess I'm lucky. So I'm thankful for that. Anyway, so put a thumbs up in front of your question or comment, and then that's how I know that you're talking to me. So to be filled in later, just ask, how do you help someone who doesn't feel like they need help? That's a common problem. It's a common problem. And it's something that I felt. In fact, I fired people. I literally fired therapists for pushing me into wanting to leave too soon before I was ready. So why do people do that? And I would love to know how many of you who've been here, who's hanging out with me today. Yeah, Benjamin Button. I hope I don't turn into a baby, but yes, I certainly don't look my age, which is nice. It's a nice problem. So how do we, and I really didn't look as good when I was younger. I could have photos of it. It's weird. It's weird, but I'll take it, whatever. So what do we do about that? What do we do about when people are in the throes of these relationships and they're not ready to hear that they're in danger or that you see risk for them? Because that happens a lot. That happened for me. I had 2 separate therapists tell me that I needed to get out, that this was bad. And like I said, I literally fired both of them. I wasn't ready to hear it. Partly was because the cognitive dissonance. So I'm getting ready to put out a course. And by the way, I know I've been talking about this all summer. The rough draft of the workbook is done. We're creating the workbook right now. The course is primarily pretty finished. So I will be launching it. Here's something I'm going to offer special today, only today. I will accept 20 more people to do the course for free in lieu of you giving me a review and being very honest about feedback. And it will include the workbook, so the course is $80. The workbook is another $20. And then you also will get to join my private group for free for a month. So you will get nearly over $100 worth of material for DMing me. You got to go over to Instagram and DM me. Let me know that you want it. And I will do the first 20 who does this. It's a cognitive dissonance course called First Steps to Leaving a Narcissist. First Steps to Leaving a Narcissist. And I'm finishing it. I plan to get it all out to those who agree to do this. I'm going to have like 40 people who run through the course to give me feedback and give me a review. And for all of that for free. And then it will go, the course will go on sale. My target right now is November 1st. My target is. So I'm super excited about it. I just heard back from the proofreader who said it was awesome, super helpful, very interesting. It's psychological. The whole thing I'm setting it up is like I'm helping you, almost like a therapy session, like you're working through a problem with me together. So like I said, first 20 people, I know people are already right now, I see them signing up. So if you're interested, DM me, same name, Kerry McAvoy, PhD. If you, okay, Zest for Life. If you don't have one, I have an email. Email me at hello@kerrymcavoyphd.com. Hello, put the same label, kerrymcavoyphd.com. And like I said, the first 20 people today, in addition to the 20 people already have signed up. Sarah, I think you're one of them signed up. Any of those, I will give this all to you for free in October. So, okay, back to trying to help somebody who says, I know they're in trouble and they don't want to hear that they're in trouble and I don't know what to do. Yeah, so what you can do is this: be the friend who's around, follow them in the sense of you listen, care, and provide input, and try to keep your agenda of having them get out of the picture. Just support them. I had a friend who said this to me. She said, you know that you can always talk to me about anything, no judgment. And I knew she meant it. I knew that she was being very, very sincere about that. That went so far for me. So then when I was in the throes of the cognitive dissonance, what is cognitive dissonance in a narcissistic relationship? It's when we literally can't make up our minds about what's real. Both realities, the fact that both realities seem to be real. Like, for example, they say they love us, they hug us, they do all this, like mine every night would cuddle me super close and sleep with me and embraced in my arms all night long. And then he would go out and he'd be like, go for a run and call up a girlfriend. I mean, that's crazy. You don't love someone and then do that. So both realities existing at the same time. They say they love you, they do loving actions, and then they do these crazy things that say that they don't love you. And so in your head, literally both exist. They're hurting me, they love me. They're hurting me, they love me. And you can't decide what's real. So you just stay in this place of do you know how they do on sci-fi shows with a computer? This is old fashioned. They would want to like tie the computer's mental space up by say, solve pi to the nearest integer, solve pi. What's the ratio of pi all the way out to, like 3 point blah, 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 and it makes the computer work and work and work on it. And it's impossible because there's no end to pi. Just forever you're calculating. Well, that's what this is like. When the mind has this dual reality of, he loves me, he hurts me, maybe he hates me, sometimes he treats me like he hates me, he loves me. When both realities, the mind gets stuck. It can't solve it, and it just like spins. It spins. So you wake up in the morning like, what's real? What's real? I don't know what's real. Or what's he going to do today? Or what's she going to do today? Are they going to treat me nice? I realize I'm using he a lot because I've been thinking of my ex, but it applies to women, by the way. This is not a gender-specific issue. This is a gender-neutral issue. So what are they going to do today? Are they going to hurt me? Are they going to treat me well? Is there something going to go bad? What's real? And you watch all day for some sign of which reality is real, because both realities, like, you keep like trying to spin and solve it and solve it and solve it. And you do this day after day after day. And that's cognitive dissonance. That confusion, that conflict of can't figure out what's real, that's cognitive dissonance. And it's bogging you down. It's disrupting your functioning. You can't think clearly. Your mental mind is becoming foggy. And on top of it, it's actually doing neurological damage. It actually is damaging. It's damaging your hippocampus. So your short-term memory is starting to become impaired. Your amygdala, which is your fight or flight, what keeps you sort of, alert and safe, is now on hyper alert. So now you're not sleeping well. Your weight's off. You're jumpy, you feel suspicious, you're reacting all the time. That's all the effect of cognitive dissonance. That's the word for it. That's what you're describing. In fact, when they do studies and they ask people who are in these relationships, what's the worst part of it? We all say that's the worst part of it. We can't make a decision. We become paralyzed by our inability to make a decision. And it literally paralyzes our mental space. We literally can't function. We start to not function. We start to become forgetful. We're disorganized. And often, here's the other thing. Most of us, before we were in this relationship, we're high functioning people. We were successful in our lives. We've done big things. Narcissists want people who make them look better. They picked you because you made them look better. And now you're falling apart because of this conflict, this literal logical conflict. And as a result, it's like stifling you. And now you not functioning the way you are used to. And that then drives you nuts. You're like, what's wrong with me? This is not who I am. And even then the fear of that starts to become perpetuating because you get more afraid. Well, I'm not. I used to find I couldn't put words together. I'm a PhD, guys. I had a private practice, successful private practice with a 6-week waiting list. I didn't have to. I had all the clients that I wanted. And now I can't even string words together, create sentences. I didn't who I'd become. I was like non-functional. And that's cognitive dissonance. So that's what this course is going to be about. The course is going to be about helping you figure out the truth, stop it so that you can return to functioning and start making decisions. That's what I'm going to try to help to do with this 7-week. It's not actually 7 weeks, it's a 7-module course. It takes about 7 hours is what I'm thinking. But that's another question I have for beta. What you'll be my beta participants. And I'd like to know, how long did it take you? Did it work? What did you think? And then write me a review for that. And again, if you don't have Instagram and you can't reach me that way, then the way to reach me is at hello at kerrymcavoyphd.com. That's my email. So great. I'm so glad you guys are writing me. I will look for that today and then add you to the list. I will send you a letter letting you know I got the letter and that you guys are on the list. So you'll be confirmed that you're on the list. And then I will get a hold of you when I launch it so that you get all those things. You'll get the course, you'll get the workbook, you'll get the group. Like I said, it's over $100 worth of material. You'll get that. And then you'll stay in touch with me and let me know how it goes. So I'm super, super excited about that. So thank you about that. So let me go back. There was a question that came in. Somebody wants to know, are women narcissists? Yes, women are narcissists as well. The rate. So in cluster B, there's personality disorders, 10 of them, 10 personality disorders, and in the ones that cause most of us a lot of problems is called cluster B. There's a group of them. In that group is histrionic. So if you guys have watched Amber Heard's court case, you saw some demonstration of histrionic behavior. It's very dramatic, very superficial. They lack a whole lot of emotional pain. So they'll say something really shocking, difficult, like, I can't do this. And then you'd think, wow, if you can't do that, that would be devastating. And yet they act like it's no big deal. So there's this odd disconnect between their complaints and then their distress about it. It doesn't line up. They're like it's casual, literally I've heard someone say, yeah, I can't walk, and then act like it's no big deal. Most of us who suddenly couldn't walk would be devastated. We'd be going through a depression and wondering what the quality of our life is. And they act like, yeah, well, whatever, I can't walk, whatever. So you'll see that odd kind of disjointedness to their behavior. So that's histrionic. They're very dramatic. Obviously, you think of the drama queen or king. That's a really good example. And Amber Heard, like I said, showed some symptoms of that. The second one is borderline personality disorder. That one is a chronically unstable personality where they have big issues about being abandoned, but they also don't want to lose control. They're very volatile, so they're easy to meet and get to know. And it's not love bombing. They're not love bombing you. They're just very easy to get to know for the first time and make fast friends with you. But what happens is they don't regulate their emotions really well. So anything that feels threatening to them, then they're very reactive. And when they react, they're explosive. It's frightening when they react. So it's a dysregulation of emotions and a dysregulation of boundaries and relationships is what a borderline personality disorder is. Very distressing personality disorder for those who have it, as well as those who are around that. Then there's narcissistic narcissistic personality disorder. That one we're very familiar with. It's grandiosity, entitlement. The rules don't apply to them. They're envious of you. They need to be control, need to be right. They are very exploitive, very manipulative. They're their emotional life tends to be sort of under control, like over controlled. They're very good at putting on a mask and behaving like they're emotional and sensitive. I mean, again, as a psychologist, I can tell authentic emotions versus non-authentic emotions. This guy fooled me. He truly fooled me. I thought he had panic attacks. Now I'm realizing probably was staged. I don't know how he did it because he literally was sweating and, in a fetal position, and it looked really real to me. So I'm not for sure how he was able to pull that off. But when it comes to being emotionally present for you, they're not. There's this emptiness, this flatness. You feel like they're roommates. So they'll say things like, love me and I love you. But when it comes to showing love and being loving, really being there, there's this empty flatness that leaves you chronically disappointed. It feels very empty. I'll tell you, the sex with him technically may have been great, but emotionally it was the worst sex ever. I was so lonely. I personally got to the place where I frankly didn't care, didn't want it because he wasn't there. It was a performance. It wasn't authentic intimacy. So you'll feel that in lots of places. That's just this lack of authentic intimacy. And they're very exploitive, very, very exploitive and very deceptive. Then the last one is antisocial personality disorder. That's the group that catches all the psychopaths and sociopaths. Yes, I also think they're special too. And the rules don't apply to them. Here's the big difference. And I was talking to another clinician yesterday who was agreeing with me. I think that antisocial personality disorders and narcissistic personality disorders are two distinct disorders. They have a lot of overlap. There's a lot of people who are both. The guy I met was both. But if there are just antisocial personality disorders. The difference between that and the narcissist is that they're not invested in you at all. They're using you like a pawn. You're literally life is a chess game and you're just the pawn they're moving on the board. They have no emotional investment in you. If they have love bombed you, it's because they plan to use you for some bigger scheme. But it was never in any way about you. There's no connection with you. There's this ruthless, callous coldness to all relationships. Relationships are just a strategy that they use in order to get ahead. Whereas narcissists are shame-based and they're fragile. Their ego is fragile and they need you to want them. Whereas antisocial personality disorders doesn't need you to want them, doesn't even care if you want them. They're using you. It's just this empty coldness. And there's no closeness there either. It feels very, very stark. The relationship feels very threatening. Like I said, I grew up around it. I knew what the rules were. I knew I better show up, and I knew that if I didn't, I wouldn't be accepted. It was very, very scary, very, very uncomfortable. And I also knew that that my life would be affected that if I if I didn't follow the rules. I'm going to respond to Tammy. So a couple of you said you're not tech savvy, you don't know how to sign up. Sign up by emailing me. Email me at hello@kerrymcavoyphd.com. Just that's how to do it. If you don't know how to get to my messages, I will follow everybody who is if you don't know how to get over to Instagram and DM me, just email me and then I will know. Okay. That will make it really simple. So yeah, I know that for some of you is like, oh, I don't know, she's only said 20 people and I don't want to miss it. So I get it. I get that, and I probably will extend it to more than 20. So it depends on how many people come in. If 100 of you say yes, I'll have to, I can't do 100, but I can do more than 20. So don't sweat it. So yes, back to my question on narcissist. So what's each personality traits of the cluster B has a different rate of women to men. So for example, histrionic and borderline personality disorder are more often women than men, not 100%. There are borderline personality disorders who are men. There are histrionic people who are men, but it tends to lean more into women than men. But narcissistic personality disorder tends to lean more into men than women. And the thought is about 50 to 70% of all narcissists are men, which is why there's a lot of females who are complain about this, but it's not perfect. And I know female narcissists. It's funny whenever I try to be very sensitive about using gender neutral pronouns. I don't always, when I'm talking about my own story, I'm obviously talking about a man, but I try to be sensitive to that. It's interesting how many men want to accuse me of implying it's only men. It's not men. I personally know female narcissists. I have female narcissists in my life. Used to anyway. I try to limit their contact to me. But the point is, I have experiences with both of them. They're different. The way that they present is different. So, women are more often to be covert, vulnerable narcissists, or more often to be what I think of as the hero or communal. They tend to be the do-gooders and very sensitive, but it's always about them, and there's no sensitivity to you. I mean, you have to sort of see the way in which they play the victim roles, the way keeps them as the primary actor on the stage. But yeah, women are, like I said, 25 to 50% of the narcissists are female, definitely. So they both are. I'm very, very, very behind on my messages, so I know that I won't be able to get through all of them today. I'm back today. I'm back on live and TikTok and Instagram at 1 o'clock on Thursday. So if you can't, please don't do that. And Penny, you subscribed, and I'm trying. Like I said, I was 90 comments behind, so I'm trying to see who the subscribers, if they've asked questions. And like I said, if you're a subscriber, I'm going to follow you on TikTok, and then that allows you to message me. So that's how on TikTok they really control messaging. And I love Instagram system way better. So the way to be able to get a hold of me on TikTok is I have to follow you, you have to follow me, and then we can message each other. So I'm going to follow you. And if you're a subscriber of mine, make sure that you follow me back, and then ask me questions in between the lives, and I will take at least 1 or 2 questions at the next live. That way you get your question answered. And if you miss a live, I replay all of them over on YouTube, one session behind. So today I'm going to be premiering my live from Thursday on YouTube at 2 o'clock Central Time today. So if you miss it, you can catch the replay. You can go to YouTube and then see the replay in its entirety. So that's a way for you to get to see your answer being addressed. So Penny, I know it looks like you may have answered me a question, and I don't know. I'm trying to find where it is if you have answered. Oh, okay. Would I mind taking a poll to see who's in my audience? Brittany, ask me what would be the question you'd like me to ask. That's an interesting question. I've never polled anybody. Here's a question I have for you. How many of us have had friends who are narcissists? I have. I would love to hear how many of you have had friends who are narcissists, female friends who are narcissists, and I'd love to hear about your experiences. Mine have been toxic as hell. Horrible. So it's just not that partners are bad. Friends can be terrible. I know we all know family members can make it rough because we've talked about that a lot, but we never talk about friendships, narcissistic friendships. And I'd love to hear how many of you. And Instagram, I don't mean to be ignoring you, but I can't see your screen. It's behind my computer, my new screen. So literally it's too low. So that's why I'm not, yeah. Oh, that's okay. So currently, what am I struggling with? Let me see if I can know how to ask this poll. Okay, so it's in progress. There is a poll going on right now. Yeah. Okay, so Brittany has posted a poll in the interact button. So we'd love to know what is it that you're struggling with right now. So if you guys want to let me know in TikTok what you're struggling with, I would love that. And Penny, I can't see your question. I'm going to go to the end of the messages and look for it there, okay? So Penny, write me again and let me know what it is that you'd like me to ask. Yeah, so Singing Moon says, yes, she's had a toxic friend. I had a friend, oh, this is awful. I have a terrible story. This friend, how do we get me on Instagram? TikTok let me know that my link to Instagram was broken and I fixed it. So I am connected now. So if you go to my profile and it says where that little symbol of Instagram is, you click it, it should take you right over there. If you don't, go over to Instagram and put in Kerry McAvoy, PhD, all smushed together, no spaces, and you should find me. That's how you should find me, Penny. So here's the story of what happened with me with a narcissistic friend. And I knew she was a narcissist. And here's the error I think a lot of us make. We meet somebody who's really cool. We can see the narcissism. It's pretty clear. They talk about themselves excessively. They control the floor. They interrupt a lot. Everything's all about them. If you tell a story, they will always one up you with a better one. You start to recognize this. If you've been in a toxic relationship, you can see it then around your friends. So I knew she was narcissistic, but I figured, hey, what's the problem? We'll go out together, have dinner once in a while. I don't have to live around her. I mean, I can do activities with her. It's nice entertainment for me. At least it's if I keep it about whatever we're doing, how can it be hurtful, right? That's what I thought. No, that's not how it works. So COVID starts and she's a nurse. And she decides one day that she needs to tell me that what I'm doing wrong with my life. So she calls me up, gets me on the phone, and berates me for over an hour. And while she's on the phone, and thank God she's not nursing on the floor, she tells me that if I came in with COVID, based upon how she thinks of my lifestyle, that she would not triage me to receive a ventilator if I needed one. I finally hung up and blocked her. I was horrified. But I would love to know, have you had something similar happen to you like that? To where someone, you thought, oh, and she proceeded to tell me that I was embarrassing myself by what I talked about when I was around friends. Wow, I was stunned. Oh, that's very, very interesting. I love that poll. Thank you, Brittany. Yeah, it's very interesting. So a lot of you want to know how to break a trauma bond and how to heal. Yeah, so be careful. Be very, very careful. We don't get arrogant and you're thinking that somehow you can contain someone's toxicity, because you can't. They will find a way to get you to keep control. Especially, here's the thing, it will go fine as long as you need them more than they need you. But if they start to see you doing well and becoming successful, they're going to chop you off at their knees. And that was what was happening. I was starting to do better. I was starting to have some success in my life. I wasn't as needy of her, and then wham, I got it. The abuse just spewed out all over me. It was horrible, very, very horrible. And that's what they'll also do. Somebody says, yeah, they triangulate. They'll do that. They'll work your friends against you and set you up and then smear you behind your back. They're often gossiping behind your back about you. I mean, so be careful. Do not think that you somehow can have some kind of like a protective wall around you so that you can contain the toxicity. You won't, and you won't be able to at all. So let's go back to the last 15 minutes, talk about how to break a trauma bond that's connected. Trauma bonds and cognitive dissonance are connected. They're connected. How are they connected? So a trauma bond is an intense feeling that you have around somebody that you're experiencing a lot of trauma with. And it can happen even with people that you are going through say that you all went into a bank, and God forbid a bank robbery held you all up and then took you guys as hostages. And say that this went on for over a day, you would begin to bond with those that were having this happen to them. Those fellow people you would get to know, you'd know their names, and you'd feel this connection because you survived it together. People who go through squads, military squads, and are in the military, they experience a trauma bond with their brothers and sisters in arms. They develop this very, very tight rapport. I know Holocaust survivors often have that as well. So anything very traumatic, unusual that you go through that kind of feels like your life is in jeopardy, you develop this attachment to someone. And it can happen in families. You guys can have trauma bonds with siblings, or trauma bonds with parents, or like with friends, or with strangers. But it happens with a narcissist, or those that were in a narcissistic abusive relationship, because we're going through this very traumatic thing and we've come to depend on them. They've made themselves our lifeline, even though they're lifeline against themselves. That's the weird part. So they're the ones injuring us, but they also then are the ones that save us from the injury. I know, it's super strange. And they've often isolated us so that we feel like if we don't have them, our life is going to fall apart. So we depend on them. The abandonment becomes very, very fearful. So it's a fear-based connection that we have that becomes, and we become almost there's some neurological chemicals that happen, like when they reward us or show up or love us, you get a real big hit of dopamine, and you also experience some oxytocin, the bonding hormone that makes you feel close and cuddly and warm. You'll get all of that. So when the threat of losing all that is really painful, it's painful physiologically, and it's painful emotionally, it's painful psychologically. But the reason you can't break it is because you can't decide what's real. It's back to the cognitive dissonance I was talking about, in the sense of they both treat you like they love you, but they also treat you like they hate you. They act like you're fantastic and brag you up, and then in private they turn around and run you down. You get both experiences simultaneously, and your mind can't figure out what's real. So it keeps you trapped. So I heard this from Sandra Brown. She actually said this in a seminar. She said, you want to break the trauma bond, you need to resolve the cognitive dissonance. You need to resolve the cognitive dissonance. In other words, you need to decide what's real. So that's my question for all of you who are going to do this cognitive dissonance course of mine called First Steps to Leaving a Narcissist. I'd like to know, as you begin to figure out what's real, do you find that it helps you detach, get an emotional withdrawal and emotional attachment from the person? I believe that it will. I know for me, when I even remember where I was. I know I wrote about it in the book, but called Love You More. There was a moment where he had just gotten done being very, very nasty to me. And I looked at him and thought, who treats another human being like this? This is unacceptable. I would never want any one of my kids to have a partner treat them like this. And as I was realizing this, I felt like I was being set free, like this connection was breaking for me. It was really, really helpful. So 93% of you guys have had toxic friends. Yeah, I'll jump back to that as soon as I'm done talking about trauma bonds. So as I began to wake up about this toxicity and how damaging it was, I started feeling like I was getting the separation, this big separation from him. And it wasn't, the trauma bond wasn't broke, but I do think that it was the first step to me starting to get freedom from it. I could tell that I was beginning to wake up and seeing things in a way that I had never seen them before. So I think it's pivotal. I think that really coming to terms and figuring out, is it Mr. or Ms. Hyde that you're living with, or Dr. Jekyll? And the confusion is horrible. And no contact. When we get out of the relationship, we really need space. Here's the error that a lot of us make. We try gray rock. We set boundaries. We will even maybe cut off contact with them for periods of time. Maybe we'll take like a separation or something. We do this out of a hope that we're going to change the person and that the relationship will be repaired and be better. Or we do it out of hope that it'll hurt them and teach them a lesson and give them a taste of their own medicine, and maybe even maybe a form of revenge. If you've done that for that reason, and I'm guilty of this, I'm speaking to myself. When you do that, you've already engaged in the drama. You're trapped in the drama. You're not free. You cannot do any of these methods that we're talking about in narcissistic abuse arena. We can't do any of those reasons for that reason, because when we do that, we were reacting. We're engaged in the drama. We're engaged in the drama. You need to do these reasons for your sanity. And it ceases to matter what it has any effect on the other person. Who cares what the narcissist thinks or feels about it? You're doing it for your freedom. Hey, Gabby Grace, I've known that you've been on my platform and you talk a lot about AA and Al-Anon, and I appreciate that. And but please limit the comments about AA and Al-Anon because this is a platform about mental health and about abuse. I really appreciate that you have that passion, but please let's not spam my comments with that today. But I do appreciate what AA has done, what Melanie Beatty has done, but this is different. This is not codependency. We're not talking about codependency. We're talking about narcissistic abuse and trauma and betrayal trauma. So I'd like to keep the forum about that. So thank you for that. I appreciate you hearing me about that. So the other question that we had, the poll came in, it was interesting, and I want to talk about why we end up as kind of my last big topic here, why we end up with so many toxic friends. I think we get used to toxicity. I think that's, and I have not been, and I'm being very vulnerable here today. I have not been dating in over 18 months. I've not been looking. I'm not on apps. I've not been meeting anybody. I've not been chatting with anybody. I've not been dating. I literally I had a very bad experience in March of 2021. Very bad. Scared the living shit out of me. And I just stepped back. I just massively stepped back. And lately I've been thinking about whether or not I want to try again. And I feel a lot of fear. And this is my fear. And I think a lot of us feel this way. I have picked a lot of narcissistic people as in my relationships. I've had a lot of narcissistic friends. I have had people with narcissistic traits or a narcissist as partners. I don't want to do it again. And the weird part is I often know when I'm getting into the relationship with a person that there's red flags, and I ignore them thinking too highly of myself, thinking that I can manage it or it'll be different. I delude myself. But I don't want to do it again. So one of the reactions I've been having is simply not to do it at all. If I don't do it at all, then I won't have to manage it, right? So that just makes it simple. But that's not healthy. I don't find that's healthy because that's a reaction. It's not out of confidence. So yesterday I met with a coach, a dating coach, not to get on apps, not to do anything. In fact, it's going to be months before I even do anything, but I want to begin to just start to build a social network. I want to get back out and develop relationships, develop a community in my own. I have a great community online. I mean, you guys, and I'm part of Narc Avengers, and I'm really close friends with a lot of other creators. So we, see each other in real life. But I'd like to have people who live near me. Right now I'm in Austin, and it's very hard I don't have a community here in Austin. So that's my new goal, is to sort of create this social environment. But I have to admit, I'm scared. I'm really scared to do that. So part of it is to become confident again in our ability to see your limits and set limits, and to be truly, brutally, vulnerably, frank with yourself. I need to get rid of my arrogance, my entitlement, thinking that somehow I can keep people from harming me. Obviously, I can't. When I expose myself to toxic people are going to be poisonous to me. That's the point. Toxic is poisonous. I need to not think that I can somehow corral off that toxicity and keep it from harming me. I'm not going to be able to do that. So that's one thing that I know I need to get over and accept, but I really challenge all of us to do the same kind of honest inventory. I need to pick people who don't overstep my boundaries and respect them. I need to, when I see a behavior that's overly familiar or is pushing me, makes me have a hard time saying no, shames me for setting limits, they're out. They need to be out of my life. Yeah, and Brittany, absolutely. Let's get together. I'd love that. I know you're in my neighborhood, so let's have drinks. I'd love that. So I need to begin to realistically figure out where my vulnerabilities are, like what this Inside is 2020 book talks about, Shelley Pumphrey talks about. Find out what my internal red flags are, and contain them. And I think that's what we all need to do. So this is what the coach said to me yesterday, and I really appreciate it. And if you want to find a really fantastic coach, Flora Ong, O-N-G, Flora Ong, she's on TikTok, she's on Instagram, she's called Redo Love. She said, we're not so concerned about the relationship out there. We're concerned about you beginning to become confident in you, for you to gain a sense of your own trust, rebuild trust in you, so that you then know that whatever happens in your life and whoever comes into your life, you have the strength to take the action. You have the strength to take the action. Awesome. I thought that advice is awesome, and I really want to leave that as advice for us here today. I know I didn't get through many questions, but I really appreciate you hanging out with me. I'm here. I always post my schedule. I'm here on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. for an hour Central Time. And then also, if you're a subscriber, I'm going to be following you right after I get off of this. I'm going to take your questions starting the next live. But I'll see you on Thursday. And right now, I'm heading over to YouTube to talk about what happened on Thursday. So thank you so much, guys. Thank you for liking and following and being here. I will see you again.